welcome to the Newsdesk Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, this week we're going to be discussing an issue that really affects us all. The new policy guidelines that have been issued by WhatsApp, we've all got that message from them asking us to sign some new updated terms and conditions. That's led to a whole lot of furor about, is it encroaching our data privacy? Is our chats going to now not, be public? What is happening? So exactly what this means for all of us. Should we all shift to Signal or Telegram, as it's being said? Are they more safer? What exactly is WhatsApp's point of view in this? Why did it come out with this update? Because, as somebody saying they've been doing this for a while now, but in fact, let me just put some things on the table. I spoke to, we don't have anyone from WhatsApp here, though I reached out to them, and their point of view was that, they are basically four WhatsApp models. There is a WhatsApp chat, there is a WhatsApp 2 for business, and there is something called WhatsApp payments. There's a WhatsApp payments is governed by the privacy rules of the Indian payments, whatever the rules are, and that is secure. The new update is actually for the business models. But then we've all got the chats on this updates terms and policy to be signed on our normal WhatsApp chats also. So what exactly does that mean? Should we all shift from WhatsApp or not is really the big question on the table. Joining me for this is Pranjal Sharma. He is an former economic editor, strategy expert, and also the author of Automated India. Dr. Jayajit Bhattacharya. He is the president at the Center for Digital Economy Policy Research. Saikat Datta, he is a strategic advisor at Nalcon and the Dialogue. And Udbhav Tiwari, he is a public policy advisor at Mozilla. So, Pranjal, if you can, set the debate for us, because I am not non-technical person, and also, since this will be viewed by people who are non-technical and non-experts, if we can use a layman's language really to get our message across. The end message being, should we stick to WhatsApp or should we shift? That's really the big question on the table.
Sure, Priya. Thanks for this, and I think it's a very relevant and timely discussion to have. Think of it this way, when we all signed up to WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, FB Messenger, Reels, each of these are separate entities. It's like, going to 5 different restaurants and having 5 different meals. But today what Facebook is saying is, from now on, all the information from all these things will be put together. Now, typically somebody like me, Facebook is a private place. I have not allowed non-friends to be inside, but Twitter or Instagram is public for anybody to view. What Facebook is saying in WhatsApp is also a set of professional contacts and some personal contacts. Now, what Facebook is now saying is, because Facebook owns all of these, it's going to put all this information together, cross-reference to get what they want to offer me is more personalized content. I didn't ask for that, right? So they are forcing information out of various places of what I have done, putting together so they will know who my professional contacts is. They will match it to my personal contact. They will match it to what I've put on Instagram. So I think what effectively they're doing, of course, my data is out there, but the scary part over here is that this will allow them to get a far sharper profile of an individual and then sell that information in a way that may undermine my own freedom of choice. I think that is the question. Facebook, of course, says that under WhatsApp, one-to-one conversation is encrypted. That's fine. That's not the issue. But when it says, why don't you connect your WhatsApp contacts to Facebook contacts and Facebook contacts to Instagram contacts? You are getting too much of my information together in one place. And I think without giving me a choice.
Okay, Jayajit, yeah, that is really the big question. Because half our information is out there, whether we do Google Maps or Zomato or Make My Trip. So what are we really so upset about at the end of the day?
Priya, if you look at what's really being offered to you, the last word that Pranjal said is choice. Apparently, you did have a choice. The pop-up came up from WhatsApp and said, you have a choice of either agreeing to part with your data in whichever way we want to use it. And they have some checks and balances that apparently they say, but there's no way for any third party to audit it. There's no third party audit on whether they're actually having end-to-end encryption, whether they're actually sharing your chat message or not sharing your chat message. But if I just stick to the message from WhatsApp was that either you give consent to part with your data, or you have the free choice to leave WhatsApp. Now, is that really a free choice? If it was a free choice, would you really hesitate? Would you really give consent? If WhatsApp said, well, you can continue with WhatsApp without the consent, would any of us give the consent? It's pretty much saying that we'll take off in an aircraft while it's flying in the sky. Suddenly they'll say, now the fares have doubled. Those who don't like can leave the aircraft and we will not give you a parachute either. That's not a choice. Because when you joined WhatsApp, WhatsApp had the promise of being free, of protecting your data, of protecting your privacy. And suddenly when everybody is onto WhatsApp, you're saying you have the free choice to leave. Now, what's stopping you from leaving? Why am I comparing it to the flying aircraft? You cannot leave because your businesses, your social life, your communication, everything is on WhatsApp due to an effect called the network effect. The network effect essentially means if there are more people on the network, then the value of the network goes up and you can't really quit that network because it becomes very valuable to you. When the network value was going up, WhatsApp had certain promises, and therefore, based on those promises, you agreed to bring your friends and relatives, your parents, your old parents, everybody on it, and you train them. You actually spend time training them as to how to use WhatsApp so that you can make a call, a video call, and so on and so forth. Now, suddenly WhatsApp says that you will not have any of that unless you agree to the terms and conditions that I'm giving you, and there is a gun on the head. It also reeks of sheer arrogance. It also reeks of the fact that you don't have control over your own data. You really want to say no to it. Many of us are rationalizing, saying, oh, well, my data is not so important. I'm not discussing anything illegal. So what's the point? So, I'll click on it and say, okay, my data is up for sale. Did WhatsApp ever say that you are the product? They always said that you're free to use this platform. Your data will be protected. They never said that this is a place where you will be used as a product. That's actually a violation of the unsaid communication, of the unsaid consent that was given, right? And under the Indian legal system, if you are earlier given consent to something else, that is accepted in the court of law as consent being provided, and subsequently, without a warning, you change that. That is an unethical practice, and the unethical practice is coming from the fact that it's a digital monopoly. The WhatsApp, and prior to that, if you saw what happened in the last quarter of 2020, where Google came out with an arbitrary 30% charge on the startup, saying, well, you're free to go to any other platform if you want to. Which other platform will the startups go to? That is where the power of digital monopoly is getting unleashed, where every adult in this country is getting compromised, is getting blackmailed, and is getting forced into accepting something which really they don't want to accept. And that's the core point, Priya.
With your first thoughts, and the problem I think really started is when Facebook purchased WhatsApp. I think, and I was reading up that part of the agreement was that they would not, merge the data, and that's exactly what they're doing now.
Okay, thanks, Priya, and thank you for having all of us here. First of all, there's a lot of misconception that's been going around. I think Pranjal has probably not read the privacy policy, and Dr. Bhattacharya also has probably not read the privacy policy. Nobody's going to be your data is not being shared as was envisaged. There is going to be some kind of data which will be shared, but that's going to be under a different set of circumstances. So let me just explain what the privacy policy is, because this is not a new thing. It came out first in October last year, and they've reiterated it. And I'll explain this step by step. One is that a lot of people are moving to Signal. Now, Signal is very good because it gives you end-to-end encryption. Now, the people who created the end-to-end encryption, the same protocol encryption engine is actually used for WhatsApp. So there is absolutely no difference in Signal and WhatsApp as far as the end-to-end encryption and the protocol is considered. So the code is the same. Now, what is going to happen is your chats, is your data going to be taken by WhatsApp and therefore Facebook, etc.? No, that's not going to happen, because when your chat is end-to-end encrypted, nobody has any access, including WhatsApp. They don't have the decryption keys to understand what is happening between two people when they're chatting with each other. So no, is your location going to be known? Is your contact going to be known, etc.? Today, whatever is going to be known is more or less what is already known to your telecom operator. So let's say you are using an Airtel or a Vodafone Idea or a Jio, and if they already have, if they're giving you the connection, then they know what your location is, because the BTS towers are picking up near your house or your office, wherever you're operating from. And your contact list, even if it's on his device, because you're connecting from one to another and the call is getting connected, those kinds of data is already known to them. Now, this is the kind of data that is already known. But Does this mean that Facebook will now get to see what kind of holidays you went to and what kind of chats you do? No. Are you going to be sharing something with your best friend and that people at Facebook, at WhatsApp are going to know? That's not possible, because technically end-to-end encryption does not allow that. What is going to happen is, in case you have signed up for, say, a business, let's say you want to book a ticket on Book My Show, and Book My Show wants to send you the ticket on your WhatsApp account because they have a business account. In that case, your chat with a business account is at that time, and that business account will get to know what you're telling them and what they're sending you. Now, if that business account is also decides that they want to host some of their material on or all their material on a Facebook server, then only in that case will that data will get shared with Facebook. And that also what kind of data that, Priya got a business ticket, got a ticket to watch XYZ film from Book My Show. That's the kind of data that you'll get. Will they have access to your contacts? Absolutely not. Will they have access to your location? Absolutely not. So a lot of this misconception and this fear that has been done. And if you're going to look at a good data regime, a good privacy regime, then you have something like Aadhaar today, which has a completely 360-degree view of you. And the government is forcing you to give up a whole lot of your information that the government should not be asking for. Under the Aadhaar Act, all your data can also be given to private companies because the government has mandated it to be such. And the courts are not looking at that issue at all, even though the Puttaswamy 2 judgment, which was on the Aadhaar case, had said that, no, this should not be allowed. So a whole lot of those things are happening where you are actually facing a lot of intrusion. In this case, as far as WhatsApp and Facebook is concerned, what they've done is they've just become transparent about the fact that if a business account, which has been declared and designated as a business account, if they were to sort of chat with you or give you a certain service, then that thing is no longer sort of secure for the simple reason that they are hosting it on a third-party server or on a Facebook server. In fact, if you were to back up some of your chats, and if you're using an Apple phone and it goes into your Apple iCloud, even in that case, once your chat, which is already on your device and it has been backed up on an iCloud or some other server, they are not able to anymore sort of secure it because now it's on somebody else's server. So even in that case, you have actually expressly chosen why you don't want the encryption offered by WhatsApp, and you've decided to put it on an iCloud. And the last thing that, like what Dr. Jaijit mentioned about, why is they're holding a gun to our heads? Why they're holding a gun to your heads is, it looks like they're holding a gun to your head, but you see, this is a private company. And the private company has 2 billion users today. And technically, if today, say, Dr. Jaijit, because of his work, he decides to convert his WhatsApp account into a business account, at that stage, to suddenly now completely convert the privacy settings from a personal to a business one, there are a lot of technical issues that come into play, which is why they have said that, at this stage, we want to be very clear that such are the new privacy policies. This is what we want to offer. If you don't want to adhere to some of this, because at a later stage, we'll not be able to help you, here is a chance for you to get off this site. And that does not prevent you from getting off the site at any point that you want to. This is basically them being transparent about what is going on.
Is it just a matter of bad communication then, Udbhav? They should have come. Terrible communication. Udbhav, how do you see this? In fact, I just want to say, at a time when we're discussing this, that social media is abuzz with a story that a certain TV anchor, his WhatsApp chat has been made with the public. It was accessed by the Mumbai police. So in fact, I spoke to the WhatsApp guys and I said bad timing. But their point of view is that this was probably accessed when he had downloaded and saved it. As Saikat said, something that is downloaded and saved is not then the responsibility of the service provider. But Udbhav, your take.
Thank you so much for having me as well. And I would agree with, I think some of the sentiments that everyone has expressed, right? I think and try to make 2 super broad points. The first one is, I think the one thing this does very clearly point towards is the need for India to have a strong data protection law, regardless of the technicalities and the changes in which I completely agree that the communication could have been handled much better. And there is certainly much more awareness now of the tracking practices of platforms like Facebook and WhatsApp than there was even a week or 2 ago. And that's simply because this these series of events have served as a rallying point for the public to sort of come together and discuss what sort of tracking practices take place on the internet, and are they comfortable with it or not. And because of that, without a strong data protection law, there's actually almost nothing that the government can do in order to, even if these things were illegal, which currently in India they don't really seem to be, there is nothing that they can actually do to protect the privacy of citizens, such as have a data protection authority ask WhatsApp some questions, have a data protection authority audit the practices of WhatsApp and what it does with this data, and maybe even pass orders, like orders were passed in Germany, in the United Kingdom, and elsewhere in the world, when many of these changes sort of started being made in 2016 as well, are all things that are simply not possible to do in India. And I think that it really does point towards that broader category of why we need a strong data protection law, which we're not very far away from. Hopefully, we should have one this year, because there is a joint parliamentary committee that is about to submit its report and a new draft of the bill to the parliament, and it may even be introduced in the upcoming session. But until we have a law that actually guarantees us these rights when we say the terms privacy in a tangible manner, in a way that the Supreme Court envisaged when it told us that we have a fundamental right to privacy, I think it's incredibly hard for both citizens as well as the government to actually tangibly do something about this entire development. And the second is, sorry, you were saying something.
Yeah, quickly finish, then I want to take a break. Your second point?
Yeah, no, the second broader point was, I definitely agree that there are two kinds of information and conversations that can happen on WhatsApp, which are personal and business chats, right? Like, I do think that what this policy clarifies is that now, if you're talking to your life insurance provider on WhatsApp, it is very possible that you may see ads from that life insurance provider on Facebook. And when you click on those ads, you may be redirected back into WhatsApp in order to talk to your insurance provider on Facebook. As a business practice, this is something that Facebook has been quite clear about for quite some time. So I think that when people choose messaging apps, they should do so on the basis of different conveniences and trade-offs that exist in all services. For example, if I want to be a part of a group that has 10,000 members or more than 256 members, I can only do that on Telegram. If I want a messaging app where I can also use payments, I can do that on WhatsApp. And if I want to be on a particularly secure and safe platform, I can then use Signal. So I think that this awareness that is spreading among users of the different features and trade-offs between different applications is a good thing at the end of the day, and is increasing not only the awareness of privacy, but will probably lead to users making more informed choices.
I'm going to take a break. My problem with that is the rules are changed midway, while we are in the aircraft. That's when the rules got changed. So that, otherwise, yes, the argument about monopolies, argument about choices all stand. But, if you change the rules midway, what do? We are discussing, of course, should we all stay on in WhatsApp or should we shift to the other service providers that are there? Pranjal, a lot of discussions on the privacy laws and other issues, something that you want to talk about?
No, this is absolute bunkum. I have to strongly disagree with Shaikat. In the sense that, you were trying to give a warm and fuzzy look to an absolute monster. If it was just about the privacy policy, which is opaque, and everybody knows that all these agreements that you sign in all these apps are so obtuse that even the best lawyers can't figure out what the meanings are. So for an average person, even educated, aware citizens, it's difficult. What about the 300 million more people who are coming into the digital mainstream in India, who just know how to use a device but don't understand what concepts of privacy is? That's point one. Secondly, if it was so transparent, why do they have different rules for different countries? They have said very clearly that in Europe, Facebook users don't have to share data with WhatsApp, and WhatsApp users will not have to share data with Facebook. Why do you have these double standards? Because India is a developing economy, and because our rules are not good. And therefore, I agree with Udbhav and also what Jayjit said. We, of course, have to be strong enough to kick them, because they cannot take our citizens and our privacy for granted. In the last year, lots of minors have come on WhatsApp and Facebook platform for education and related stuff. How do I know? What assurance do I have that the minors' information is not being picked up by Facebook? It's not about sharing my data with another person. It's about sharing all my data with Facebook, with a global entity which has taken my information. I don't know how they're using that information. Do we know? We have seen how they've been, hauled up in the US Senate and all these congressional hearings, and they have practically admitted that there is so much of opacity in their own policy. So are we expected to read one long privacy notice which nobody can understand, and on that basis feel so warm and cuddly about WhatsApp and Facebook? I don't think we can accept that. So I think in the end, what is required is India should have the laws where Facebook can dare not come up and say that, the laws for India and our approach to India will be different from Europe and US. How can they say that? I mean, for me, this itself is an admission of guilt.
Jayajit, your take?
Sorry, was that question to me, Priya?
Yeah, Jayajit, yeah.
So Priya, absolutely, I completely agree with what Pranjal mentioned. If you look at, what Saikat was talking about, the case where your data that is being shared by a travel agency can then be used on Facebook. Well, who gave the permission for that travel agency or Facebook or WhatsApp to use your data? You never gave consent. Now that business entity gave consent, that does not mean your data will get compromised, right? So let me take another example. If I give consent to share my data on WhatsApp, by definition, I'm also sharing your data and Pranjal's data and Saikat's data and Uddhav's data, because you're all connected to me through WhatsApp. But none of you actually gave consent to that. So on what basis was your data shared by everybody else? Let me also state this, that I'm saying this with enormous amount of responsibility. My own education is a PhD in privacy from IIT Delhi. So I would understand what privacy is all about. There is clear violation of privacy, both in terms of the legal outlook, from an ethical outlook, and from a moral outlook. And it is just not tenable that we say that no violation is happening. If we say it's end-to-end encryption, and I think the example that Saikat gave was that Signal and WhatsApp use the same encryption technology, there is a reason why it's the same encryption technology, because the founder of WhatsApp quit WhatsApp when Facebook took it over, because he saw that Facebook was violating the privacy and the data of WhatsApp. And then he went and created Signal, where the privacy and the respect for data of individuals is maintained. And that is why the encryption algorithms are same. The larger issue, Priya, is the fact that there is no legislative and regulatory oversight over these, what we would now call as OTT. When OTT is used in terms of media and entertainment, but it's the same issue. When we had messaging earlier, it was SMS that was controlled under the telecom licenses being given to the telecom operators. There is no license given to WhatsApp. There is no regulatory oversight over WhatsApp. There is no third party who's looking at whatever WhatsApp is saying is true or not. There is no third party who's really analyzing the privacy policy being put out. As Pranjal mentioned, even the best of lawyers will find it difficult to understand what they're talking about. So they're basically trying to obfuscate the matter and create a moat around themselves, which is more trying to protect themselves from the existing regulatory structure, forcing people to give a consent. And I will underline the word, it's forcing. If you were not forced, if you were given an option that please give consent and you can continue, or not give consent and you can continue with a few less features, most of us would opt for the non-consent option. The fact that we opted for the consent option proves that there was a gun on the head. And that is clearly not acceptable. And therefore, I think, and as we move forward, it is important that there is a regulatory oversight over monopolies, and there could be a definition of monopolies in terms of how many users, once it covers a certain threshold, a number of users, it should be defined as a monopoly, and thereafter, certain regulatory oversights must kick in, irrespective of whether it's a foreign entity or a domestic entity. Those kind of regulatory oversights are needed at this point in time.
The last point makes a lot of sense. I think part of the fault is also in our own regulatory system. But Saikat, over to you.
Thank you, Priya. Again, some kinds of slight misinformation or misconceptions here. Like Pranjal mentioned, that why are they being discriminatory with the European market and countries like emerging economies like India? Well, I think if Pranjal knew that European Union has GDPR, and because they have GDPR, they have data controllers and they have privacy controllers, etc. And there is an order of the European Data Commissioner expressly prohibiting such a thing. So they're following in some ways, they're following a court order there. That is why till that case is settled, they will not be able to share data between two different entities. That is how the legal regime in Europe.
So, Saikat, it's like saying that because
Pranjal, if you let me finish.
Pranjal, let him finish.
I do not interrupt when you speak, so
Fair
please
enough.
let
Yeah,
me finish.
we're giving you the floor, Saikat.
There is a legal regime that is in place. In India, unfortunately, privacy was not even recognized as a fundamental right because the government argued in the Supreme Court that privacy is not a fundamental right. In the Aadhaar case, they made all their efforts to ensure that privacy is not recognized by a fundamental right, till a 9-judge constitutional bench went ahead and said, yes, it is a fundamental right. And in the next judgment, which was the Aadhaar judgment known as Puttaswamy 2 judgment, the court said that certain things will be allowed under Aadhaar because it is legal, etc., but certain things will not be allowed. The government went ahead and produced an ordinance to ensure that the Aadhaar data can be shared with private companies. Now, in a scenario like that, where when we are actually seeing that the government is keen to ensure that more data is shared, and a lot of people have been arguing for a long time that India should have data centers, huge data centers, because data is the new oil. What is oil used for? Oil is used to fuel a certain thing. Now, if you want to turn off the oil, then you don't have those data centers. And somebody like Dr. Jaijit for long has been writing, like 30th November last year, he wrote a long piece, why India needs data centers, because data is the new oil, in Outlook magazine. Now, everybody wants that data. But now when somebody says that, look, under certain conditions, some data can be taken, under other conditions, certain data can't be taken, you certainly say that, no, this all needs to come under regulation. My first question is, who's going to regulate it? Because the regulator, which is the government of India, has already taken your data and is already, by law, giving it to private companies. 2, if we have to really understand how a good privacy regime comes, then we have to ensure that not only the Personal Data Protection Bill, which is still with the parliament, it becomes a very strong law and it disallows any kind of data sharing, even by the government, which has taken this under the Aadhaar Act from us and gives it to any private company. 3, if you want to understand how a privacy regime works and how these companies work, then yes, as data controllers or holders or repositories of data, they'll come legally under different kinds of statutes which will prohibit them from doing certain kind of things. So today, what Pranjal is saying is happening in Europe can happen in India too, if the law and if the government agrees that, yes, we will not allow anybody, including ourselves, to take your data. But you can't be, on one hand, argue that we need data centers, we need data is the new oil, etc. On the other side, we say that, no, but data cannot be shared. You have to be rationalizing this.
I know Jaijit and Pranjal want to come in, and Udbhav, but we are out of time totally. So unless you want to, quick 1 second.
Few quick ones. One, in fact, in
one quick one to each.
In that article, I did not say data is oil. I was arguing against it because it's very different from oil, and we need it. But the larger point is that if you're saying that unless a regulation comes in, WhatsApp will not behave, that just is an admission of guilt. And I also fail to understand that when we are having the government trying to provide subsidy and trying to help out people, and they need a system for that, we are up in arms against it. And when a private company, which is not even Indian, gets our entire data, which is far more detailed and granular than what the government can and the private sector can.
Government wanting to share data with the private sector is not.
Again interrupting. Yeah. Sorry, you're again interrupting. But let me complete and you'll have your turn.
Quickly, no, he won't have because we're out of time. So quickly, Jaijit, one more.
It is not acceptable that we allow a foreign third party to get a 360-degree view of what we have. And also, it is viral in nature. If I get my data, if they get my data, they also get your data, Priya, which is not the case.
You made that point earlier. Saikat, quickly, you want to come in?
No, so as I said, if it's your personal chat, end-to-end encryption applies, there will be no sharing of data whatsoever. So again, that is again a misconception that is floating around, and that's written in the policy if somebody were to go ahead and read it.
Jaijit has a point. At the end of the day, if a business one shares the data, then you haven't really signed up for the business app, really. So why would your data?
No, but then you have to get off completely off any telecom network, because telecom networks are already taking your data, and the government through an ordinance is taking your data and giving it to private companies.
That I agree. Same rules for Aadhaar, same rules, different rules for WhatsApp.
You can't have different rules, and this subsidy thing does not work at all, because repeated studies have shown that no subsidy is actually held by this data collection. And the fact is even,
So Priya, let me make 2 quick points. One, it's very fascinating that, this is the 1960s and 40s, because you don't have the rules. We will dump, absolutely bad food on you. We'll dump toxic stuff in your country, but we will make sure that our own countries are safe. because it's your problem, because your rules are ding. We will just do what we think is right because your rules are poor. Second point, it's very interesting that Facebook is being compared with a sovereign nation. And I think that's the real issue, that Facebook, Twitter think of themselves like sovereign nations who are above everybody else, above all rules and regulations. And therefore, to compare Facebook with the government of India, I think it's very fascinating and actually reveals a lot.
Okay. On that note, sorry, Udbhav, I couldn't get you in, but I think the point you made is the point everybody is also agreeing on. We need better rules and regulations, and there should be the same rules for Aadhaar as they are for other private players also. We need to really get our own house in order. And I hope you've learned something from this conversation as I have. Thank you all for watching this show, and thank you all, gentlemen, for coming on the show.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.